What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin and Markets. Happy day after election. Trump was victorious. Our Bitcoin candidate was victorious. We're going to take a look at the charts. We're going to look at all sorts of markets from the stocks to bonds to what else we got on here? Dollar, gold, and of course, Bitcoin hitting a new all-time high, 76,000 right before we went live. So yeah, big day. Let's jump right into it and get the ball rolling. Want to go to the website first. And I am actually good. I'm on page 2. Let's go to the homepage. You guys can sign up here for the free email list. I did put out a post today: fertility rates and the future of political power. On the show here on Bitcoin and Markets, we talk Bitcoin, of course, but macro is part of Bitcoin, or Bitcoin's part of macro. So we have to look at a holistic view of the global economic situation, and fertility rates is one of those things that is most people don't even touch. Okay, but it's one of these, the most, I think, the most powerful force going in the next couple generations. And how is that going to affect the global economy? How does that affect Bitcoin adoption? Is that a driver of Bitcoin adoption? Or, how do we understand these things? That's what we talk about here on the show. So sign up for the free email list. You can also support my stuff over there. Okay, let's jump into the charts. I am live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Telegram. So you guys can join me. If you're on Twitter, join me on YouTube or Rumble. And that way you can make comments and I can get them quite easily. Tomek, what's up? Yes, hope is back. Our Bitcoin candidate was elected, Donald Trump, in a mandate type election. I've heard a lot of people throwing around that word more and more just today. But I've been saying that, if Trump wins big, which I kind of expected it to be a landslide, and I've written about that in the past. I'm not just saying that post facto now. But with that comes a mandate. And, he's wanting to do major changes. One of those big changes, of course, is a Bitcoin strategic reserve. But there's lots of other changes. He's bringing in RFK Jr., right? Ron Paul is going to be advising Elon Musk for the efficiency council or committee or whatever it is called. So there's going to be major changes. And this election was so big, President, Senate, House, that this is a mandate. Now, on top of that, most likely we're going to be heading into recession here in the first part of his presidency. So if we're heading into recession, if he gets handed over this type of economy, this type of debt on a mandate like this, then there's going to be major changes coming. John Delaney, what's up? Very happy Wednesday. Yes, look at that candle. So total, I mean, it's a 10% candle for today. That's a massive candle, up about $6,800 right now. What was the high? The high was 68,481, or sorry, 76,481. And all-time high, of course. Everything's looking good. Now, I was talking in the pregame show on Telegram that, my thing has always been the halving is more important than the election. They just happen to coincide at the same time or in the same calendar year here so far in Bitcoin. It won't always be like that, most likely. But which is more important, the election or the halving? And looking at this chart, it's really hard to say it's not the election that is more powerful. But also, like I was saying earlier on Telegram, is that these two things can be different. Okay, the 2020 could have been driven off the halving and more off the halving. And this time in particular is driven more off of the election because of things like the strategic Bitcoin reserve, the promise to fire Gary Gensler. It just happens to be after now we get the Bitcoin ETFs and the banks all seem to want to get involved. So there is all of these like political things concentrated around this election. And so this time it could be the election. It's more important than halving. But last time it was the halving in 2016. It was the halving. But yeah, so this is what it looks like on the daily. Just barely oversold. But Bitcoin, on the daily. Oversold is not until about 80. It's such a volatile asset that it can just continue to scream higher to 80 to 90 even on the RSI for the daily. So it has a lot of room to go higher, and it will probably happen fast. One of the things I've been talking about for a long time as well is that gains happen very, very fast in Bitcoin, and it's kind of like a new paradigm. If you go back to, let's go to the weekly. If you go back to 2016, and I have all these elections on here. If we go back to 2016, it was a nice, gentle, parabolic. I mean, yeah, there was some big pullbacks, but it was pretty nice, gentle, parabolic rise. Okay, then we get into 2019, pretty fast initial rise before COVID. Then we had COVID. And then after the election, we had a very sharp rise right here. So the gains were more concentrated into smaller periods. If we look at this, the most recent bull market, I guess, from the bottom, you see the big gains happened all in 1 week. These are big, giant weekly candles. 1 week, just it went up, then it went sideways, consolidated, up, sideways. We had a little down here, but then February going into this year with the ETFs, it happened pretty fast, then sideways, then really fast. Okay, then we went sideways. So what I'm trying to say here is that we'll probably be going up very, very quickly to the next level. Hold on, I'm going to mute this because my kids are chatting on a chat app and it's coming over my headphones. Okay. So where was I? There we go. Yeah, so I expect this to move pretty quickly. We can do things here on TradingView, like get these bar patterns. Where are the bar patterns? And we can just say, okay, go from here up to here, copies that bar pattern, and we can stick it on the end over here. And where does that take us? We're starting to get into some cosmic here. Well, this is going out to mid to March of 2025, but this move right here up to 100,000 is by the end of the year. So we most likely we get to 100,000 by the end of the year. That is the base case right now. And depending on how serious all of this Bitcoin strategic reserve talk is and how quickly it could be adopted, the sky's the limit. I mean, this could be shrunk down like this, and we could just be going to 200K by inauguration day or something like that. So pretty exciting times for Bitcoin. But as Bitcoin is rallying off of this, let's see what's going on in the rest of markets. So I want to check ETH because it's just so funny. Sorry, ETH bag holders, but this is continuing. Well, it was a little positive against Bitcoin today, but overall, it just, look at that. It's a dead fish there. Okay. Gold had a massive down day. I was kind of expecting a consolidation at some point soon. Let's see. I had this bearish divergence in here. That was probably on the weekly, though. Let's go to the weekly. No, that must have been daily. Bitcoin made up some major ground here. A lot of people were talking about gold going higher while Bitcoin was stagnant or kind of weak on the price going down. But now we have the tables turned here, Bitcoin shooting up as gold is shooting down. Now, why is this the case? Big trade here, in my opinion, is geopolitical uncertainty. So the risk of World War III was mitigated drastically by Trump winning the election. Drastically. I mean, the Houthis have already come out and said they're stopping their operations as part of this war in the Middle East. Of course, not the Ukraine-Russia thing, but that's the effect of what Trump is going to have on all of these conflicts. So World War III, the odds of World War III, what's that doomsday clock that goes to midnight? I mean, we lost 10 minutes off of that doomsday clock just today. And so that is why gold is dropping. However, the fundamentals behind the what word am I looking for? The monetary reasons why gold is going up are still intact. It's the same monetary reasons why Bitcoin is going up, because we are approaching a paradigm shift. We're approaching leaving the credit-based dollar, the credit-based system, and going back towards a commodity money. And the characteristics of that would be people diversifying away from like US treasuries as collateral to gold and Bitcoin as collateral. And so that is the underlying monetary reason for why gold is going higher. So I do expect this to be a consolidation for gold, a correction here a little bit, because it has been very overheated. But overall, I don't expect it to crash or for this rally to be over. It's just a period where now gold is going to go sideways for a while. Bitcoin going sideways for 6 months, gold can go sideways for 2 years. So this might be a top for extended periods of time here on gold. But overall, I still am bullish on gold looking out 2-5 years down the road for the same reasons I'm bullish on Bitcoin. Okay, now also the dollar rallied hard. Where are all the dollar bears at? Come on now, where are all the dollar bears at? If you've been watching my content for a while, you know I'm pretty much the only dollar bull in Bitcoin, and I'm going to stick with it. That this is a sign of a big spike in the dollar is a sign that this is bullish for the U.S. economy. Trump's election is bullish for the U.S. economy. So if an economy is expected to grow, you're going to need dollars to interact with that economy, right? And to do business with that economy. So there's going to be a rush towards that currency. And we even see that counterintuitively, we see that during QE. So whether it's the ECB that does QE and the euro actually strengthens, or the Fed does QE and the dollar strengthens, because QE is seen to be stimulative. So what happens when you stimulate the economy? You grow, and so you need more dollars or need more currency units to interact with that economy. So the demand for that currency of that economy goes up. That is what we're seeing here with this candle. But the overall, again, I'll go back to the monetary story that I'm trying to tell here. And I'm going to go to the monthly chart so it's easier to see. If we go to the monthly chart, QE1, QE2, QE ends right here, and we enter this. So even with all of these things that are supposed to be bearish for the dollar, okay, the dollar continues to strengthen. Now, not strengthen against goods and services. We still have inflation. CPI rises, okay? There is that. But relative to other currencies, the dollar is going to outlast them all, because why would the dollar crash before the euro or the yuan or the yen? They're all in worse shape than the United States economy. So the dollar is going to continue to stair step higher. And that's what I have been forecasting for years. I mean, we're going back to like 2018, maybe even as far back as 2016. I don't know when I started talking about the dollar here, but it's going higher in a stair step fashion. And that's really what we're seeing right now. Okay. We have entered this new higher range for the dollar, and I don't expect it to crash anytime soon. Short euro, long dollar, that is the trade on these traditional currencies. Okay, let me check the chat, getting a few things here. Oh, Tomek, Vivek, Lutnick. Yes, I forgot to add those to what we get here with the Trump victory. Lutnick, of course, we watched that interview with Pomp the other day on the live stream here. Great story, life story that he has. He's big into Bitcoin, and he is a co-head or co-chief or co-lead of the transition team. So that is very big news. Yeah, great. And Vivek, of course, I don't know where Vivek fits in the administration. I mean, Of course, he would be like a good press secretary, but he's not going to. That doesn't really fit his thing. So I don't know what he would do. I think like Tulsi Gabbard is going to be like Secretary of State. So most of the big positions are filled. So I don't know what Vivek does. I think he would be a good person to take J.D. Vance's Senate seat, though. So J.D. Vance, of course, right now is a sitting senator and now vice president elect. So somebody is going to have to be appointed to take his spot until they can hold other elections for that. And I think Vivek, since he is also from Ohio, that would be a perfect swap out for Vivek to get into the Senate, and that would be a stair step for him, right? So Vivek is one of these guys that doesn't have any political background, and now he did a great job in this presidential campaign and stuff. But if he's appointed a senator, then that is just another check mark on a box to become a future president. And he's so young, relatively young, that he has another 20 years. He has another 5 different rounds of president until maybe J.D. Vance takes it, maybe Ron DeSantis tries to get it, Vivek. So like there's a lot of choices here, and Vivek is young and he can ride out a long political career if he wants to. I mean, he's deep down a businessman, so I don't know if he's going to want to do that. Worst part of yesterday was Warren survived. Yes, Elizabeth Warren. Where's she from? Connecticut or Massachusetts? I can't remember where she's from, what state. But yeah, she survived Deaton. He was the crypto candidate. He was the Ripple candidate. He would be better than Elizabeth Warren. But that cabal of anti-Bitcoin senators and stuff, they've been totally humbled here. I don't think they're going to fight. I really don't. I think they've been beaten. I don't know how they could fight. They don't have the presidency. They don't have the SEC. They don't have the DOJ. They don't have the lost my train of thought. They don't have anything behind them. So I think that the cabal, Wall Street is what I was going for. They don't have Wall Street either because the banks want to get into Bitcoin. They're kind of begging to get exception to that SAB 121 from the SEC, that said banks couldn't be involved, couldn't have allocated accounts. And so in Bitcoin, so that, the Wall Street is against them. I don't know how that cabal survives. So she did make it through the election, but her power is going to be diminished by 90% of what she can do. She's humiliated too. There's a humiliation factor. I don't know. These people are pretty hard to humiliate. You would think that you would be humiliated by talking so badly about Trump for so long and then he wins, but they have no shame. So anyways, that's that. Yeah, John Delaney, right on. She won't be doing anything for the next 4 years. Next 12 years either. I mean, that's if we get JD Vance after this, I mean, he owns Bitcoin, right? JD Vance owns like 5 Bitcoins. So he's all in. The only thing better would be if JD had 6.15, right? But yeah, JD Vance, if he's the next president, he's another Bitcoin president. And maybe even by then we have the strategic Bitcoin reserve and we're sitting pretty at $1 million a coin or something like that. Metiquin. Followed Ansel since 2017. Well, thank you, sir. From the UK. Yeah, man. I hope the UK, I hope this, Brexit, with Trump and Brexit back in the day, that was a good, I think the UK was setting a good example for the United States and for other countries in Europe that I thought would have had a referendum breaking away by now from the European Union. But yeah, hopefully this rubs off onto the UK. Hopefully it rubs off onto Europe. I've seen a bunch of European politicians already, like von der Leyen and rut saying, "Oh, we're excited to Trump is president again, and his leadership is necessary to keep our alliance strong," and all this. And I'm just kind of giggling under my breath. He's not going to keep the alliance strong. Okay, I think he wants to get out of NATO, and I mean Europe is in deep trouble economically. They're in deep trouble, and Trump's not going to come to their rescue either. And especially if they're trying to push these climate things on people, Trump's not come to the rescue. I'll see, or she'll just be throwing tantrums for another 4 years. Yeah. Okay, so Rain Price says, really like Ansel and miss Landon Manning's mining sector updates. Anyone know if he is still putting out that content somewhere? No. The Landon Manning. Where was that out? I'm trying to remember where that came out. But if that was back on the Bitcoin Magazine days, those days are done for the foreseeable future. And my Forbes days, guys, I am contributing to Forbes now, but I'm having difficulty forming these ideas in my mind, because if you are familiar with my stuff on my website, like let's just go to that right now. Let's go here and we'll go to the fertility rates. So yes, I'm a Bitcoin guy. Okay. The main topic is Bitcoin, but this is the type of stuff I write: fertility rates. And we talk about how demographics, specifically fertility rates, will shape the political landscape in America and the world. I go through low fertility rates in left states and high fertility rates in red states, and how the political power is shifting here. And it's already shifted, but there was some funny business going on with this last census. But fast forwarding to 2030, I mean, it's like a 10-point shift from blue to red already. Blue states versus red, or blue cities versus red cities. So for example, Seattle, their fertility rate is 0.68, where Dallas, Fort Worth, comparable city, but in a red state, is 2.2. Major difference. And if you take that out to 10 or 20 years, and this difference didn't form right now. Okay. This difference has been building over 20 years. So the people coming of age right now, the generations coming of age right now, are much different. So if you think about like the people coming of age for the next presidential election, by the time of the next presidential election, it's already going to be drastically bigger for the red states, because this difference has been building up for years, decades. And if we go now, we say Trump gets 4 years and JD Vance gets 8 years, that's 12 years. And, where will the demographics be by then? It's going to be a lot, even more right, even more populist, even more nationalist. So anyway, heritability of political leanings, talk about that, the census and congressional representation, just be getting more conservative with age. So as fertility, as demographic shifts happen, it's aging of the population. So as the population gets older, say the average age goes from 47 or whatever it is right now, it's right around 47 in the United States, up to 55, it's just going to get more conservative. Okay. So anyway, that's the type of stuff I write about, and I tie it in. This piece, I didn't really tie it back necessarily to Bitcoin, but most of the stuff I tie this back into why are we seeing Bitcoin rise? Now, this type of stuff, I cannot write that for Forbes. So for Forbes, I have to write very narrow Bitcoin stuff. And that's hard for me, but I'm still writing for them. I'm going to try to get out as much stuff as I can. Okay. We went over the charts. Where were we at? Oh, Landon Manning. Oh, I got you. Now I could for some reason why I couldn't remember his name. Yeah, I don't know where he ended up. I had no communication with Landon Manning. I think he lives in South America, but he's probably writing for somebody else in the industry. He was really good because he could crunch out a lot of stuff pretty quick. Okay, let's go back to the charts. We took a look at the dollar. That's where we stopped. Oil, don't have to touch on this much. I've talked a lot about oil. Pretty much, this is a monthly chart, but you can tell nothing's happening on this. We are just going to be most likely grinding lower, especially now with Trump and the fracking and drill baby drill. The supply is going to outpace demand, especially if we're going into a global recession. That demand is going to be weak and supply is going to be strong under Trump presidency. So I don't see any reason why we would see higher oil. And what I love about this is that people's opinion on the oil price, first off, if you don't have an opinion on oil, that kind of puts you into a different box, I think, as an analyst here. So you have certain analysts that are just really focused on Bitcoin or really focused on inflation or the death of the dollar. Okay. That's like one level of analysis. Then you have people that will have a position on oil. Like I think that's kind of puts you into a different category because oil is such a gigantic commodity and it rules the world to a degree. And so if you have a position on oil, then you're going to be a different type of analyst, I think, or a different level of analyst. Now, out of that level, if you're bullish on oil, you have been wrong, 100% wrong. Cheap peak oil. What is it? What was Luke Groman's? Yeah, peak cheap oil. That's right. Peak cheap oil. That is wrong, 100% wrong. So really the only analysts worth their salt, I think, in macro are people that have been bearish on oil. You have to be bearish on oil and you have to be bullish on Bitcoin. If you're not those two things, your analysis is garbage. It's straight up, you are wrong about some assumption somewhere that you're basing a premise on. You have to go back to the drawing board. One of the accounts that I follow on Twitter, I posted it in Telegram. Let me go see if I can find that real quick. This morning, he's a geopolitical guy. I follow him for his geopolitical stuff, Live Monitor. I think he's a regular guest on some macro podcast now. Can't remember the name of the podcast, but anyways, he's really good on the geopolitical stuff. But he was saying Kamala was going to win. And then the very first thing he does this morning, after that turns out to be, and he was going hard on it for months. And now the very first thing after being wrong there is he makes fun of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. So, there's, I don't know why I got onto that, but it's interesting to see different people and their different takes on a holistic type of thing. If you see somebody that's only talking about the dollar and Bitcoin and why the dollar is going to go down and Bitcoin is going to go up, I mean, they don't have a very complete version of the world, in my opinion. Okay, so that's oil. Let's go to the stock market. Big gap higher today on the day. Let's go down to the daily. Of course, with the Trump stuff, I was watching the break of this line. And one of the things I've talked about is, people are like, oh, is this the top for the stock market? Well, I said, okay, if it breaks this line, then we have to start paying more attention. And then if it breaks this line, then yes, I would say if it gets down into this area on the chart, it bear market territory, okay? But it never even touched that support. And now it's back above. Of course, Trump is pushing it higher. This is the pre-recession trade. I expect this to continue into inauguration, into the new year. Now, the one thing that has really gotten me baffled, and that's the U.S. 10-year. And what I want to do is I want to add in the 3-month, and look at that. Okay, so we have the 10-year screaming higher, and the 3-month was coming down, but today it went up a little bit. It's right at the 3-month is at 4.55, and the 10 is at 4.43. So this will uninvert. And technically right now, this is a bear steepener. I mean, it was looking like a combination between a bear and a bull steepener. And those terms are backwards. I wrote about that recently as well. You can go to bitcoinmarkets.com and see my recent stuff on that. But a bear steepener is actually bullish. They're reversed the names. A bear steepener is when rates are rising. The 10 years rising into the 3-month or the 2-year or whatever the case is. That is bullish. People don't understand that. Bullish and bearish on yields. If yields are rising, that means growth and inflation expectations are rising. And in a credit-based system, a debt-based system, if growth and inflation expectations rising, that's good. That means people are bullish about the economy. So it's not a surprise that this is rising at the 10-year as Trump is getting elected. But what's surprising is how far it's gone. I think this has gone quite a ways. And the 3-month dipping down here, not agreeing with the 10-year, like if it to be in agreement with these growth and inflation expectations, the short end would also have to be rising. But it's not. So a bull steepener is actually bearish, and that is when the shorter end yield is falling faster than the long end. That's very, very bearish. That means some sort of crisis is happening. There's some credit crisis. But anyway, so this will probably invert, and I think it's going to invert. The 10-year, I don't think has much more to go. Of course, I said that a couple weeks ago, like back here, around the last week of October, and it really didn't go anywhere until today. So we will see. But my macro thesis is that yields are going to fall as we go into recession, whether that's in the first quarter of next year, second quarter of next year, probably the first quarter. Then these yields are going to fall, and they're going to fall fast and dramatically. I don't know if we'll get back down to where we were previously on the 10-year. So like back down to COVID levels of 60 basis points, but I can see us getting down to 2%, and that's going to be a huge drop. 3-month will get down to 0. Okay, so that's all the markets that I wanted to cover. Bitcoin, of course, and then I did have one chart from Twitter, and this is from Rational Root. So let me just share this. And he says the new all-time high exactly matches the 2021 cycle. So orange is 2021, and it's right there, right where we are. And let's see, all-time highs in black. Where's today? Pink. So the pink rising today is right back in line with the 2021 cycle. That is amazing. Amazing how that happens. Anyway, okay, good follow over there, Rational Root. Okay, let's get more into the election stuff. And I wanted to start with this one. Nick Carter, his star is rising still. Go through some of the things that he has here on what his wish list for Trump 2.0. And I wanted to make some comments. But before I do that, actually, let me check comments here. Yes, sir. Could the rise on the 10-year just be a brief risk on impulse? Yes. And that's what I'm thinking it is. It's Trump being positive. It's also stimulus from China. We've covered this in the past. Stimulus from China, Fed rate cuts. So it's just a brief temporary euphoria or temporary optimism. That's the word I've been using in the past. It's temporary optimism, and it will turn back over. And that's why I'm saying if we're going into recession sometime soon, then those rates will fall, and they'll fall dramatically. Why do I think we're going into recession? Because the things I've written about just last week, the two big solid indicators that you can kind of rest your hat on is yield curve inversion and the SOM rule. Okay, so those 2 points right there that have always predicted recession are pointing to recession. So I wouldn't want to make a base case second guessing those two things. Those indicators are so accurate in the past that if you have a base case that doesn't agree with those things, you better have a damn good reason why you don't think it's going into recession. Not just because, oh, the stock market's going higher, so we're not going into recession. Like, that's not a real thing, because we do expect the stock market to go up in a pre-recession period, which I've talked about many, many times. So that I wouldn't second guess those two things. So we can say as our base case is a recession is coming very shortly, whether that's at the beginning of next year or middle of next year or something. But anyways, so there you go. Okay, now let me check Telegram. I told those guys to put the comments in there, and I haven't been checking it. Okay, Larry Jr. says, write for Forbes about the expected impacts of a Trump administration on Bitcoin. Yeah, I could try to do that, like top 3 impacts. That would be a good clickbaity title. Top 3 impacts of Trump's presidency on Bitcoin. I can't really write about macro and Bitcoin. I mean, I can, but it has to be relatively short, like 800 to 1,200 words. And it would need to be somewhat holistic or complete, because I'm new to writing on Forbes. And so if I just start saying the stuff that as if I'm talking to my longtime subscribers, it's not going to make sense in the context of a Forbes article. So yeah, I can write about macro and Bitcoin together, but it needs to be a holistic article. Oh, thank you about the recession indicators. Yeah, that was a good one. Spag says maybe the 3-month doesn't think Trump will make it to January. Let me go back to the chart real quick. So we are looking at this one, and we'll go to the daily. I mean, that's just falling off a cliff. If we bring back in this, so we see right here, let me make sure this is coming through properly. If we look here on the chart, as a 3-month is dipping, the 10-year really isn't, especially during this very steep phase right here. The 10-year bottomed, okay, started coming up. So that is a bull steepener. When the lower yields are falling rapidly towards the 10-year, towards uninversion, then that is very, very bearish, even though it's called a bull steepener. I hate the way they call that. And then here, the 10-year continues to rise, but the 3-month is calling the bluff. The 3-month is saying, no, that's not happening. It's also down. If we add in here the Fed funds, let's just add in the lower. Okay. And that's in purple here now. So that's the lower limit to the Fed funds. And they probably will cut 25 basis points tomorrow, which would take them down to 4.5. So that would fall down below this 3-month, which is interesting, because usually see how the 3-month times it there. It's not timing it right now, But we did have the election yesterday, so that's kind of messing things up. If we go to the CME website, we can see it's a 99% chance of a 25 basis point cut tomorrow. No chance of a 50, at least priced in. Of course, I still think there's a chance of a 50. But we can talk about that more next time. Okay, where was I here? Nick Carter. Let's go back to Nick Carter's thing and go on this. So this is his wish list. COVID, Nuremberg. At a minimum, what was Fauci's role in the gain of function research? Ideally, jail time for those responsible. This one cannot be overlooked. Well, it's probably going to be overlooked. I wouldn't mind this. I think it's obviously would be good for healing of society. This would be just in the U.S. It wouldn't be globally. But if there was something put out about Fauci, then that would provide healing also for the rest of the world. So I think that this would be a good thing. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think COVID is over. And if you want to get some justice, you have to look to the next life or the next world. Unfortunately, it's not going to come in this world, but we're looking forward. Okay. We're looking forward, and we need to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen again. Fix and seal the border. That will happen. Full investigation of Operation Choke Point 2.0. That probably won't happen either, because it really wasn't a big thing. I think that Operation Choke Point 2.0 is a meme made up by shitcoiners. I mean, they're going to get a new SEC commissioner, and if it's Hester Pierce, then she's just going to pretty much say securities laws don't matter. Have at it, boys. Security laws, be damned. That's what she's going to do, because these things are unregistered securities. They should have been litigated against, or they should have been stopped, but they weren't. Okay, if they were enforcing the law and they were enforcing consumer protection, all this fraud would have been stopped, but it wasn't. Now, then Gensler came in and was like, holy crap, there's so much fraud out there. I have to somehow put a stop to this. And so he did as much as he could. But this is just a meme. Operation Choke Point 2.0 is a meme made up by shitcoiners. So I don't think anything is going to happen at all. At all. Nothing. Okay, next point. Obviously, stablecoin legalization. Okay, that will probably happen. Allowing legal token issuance of shitcoins? No, that's not going to happen. Well, oh man, maybe it will, unfortunately, because Hester Pierce will let it, and Trump has his shitcoin casino thing that he's doing. So it's possible. I hope not, but it's possible. Restore the U.S. as the unquestioned Bitcoin capital of the planet. That will happen as well. Not crypto, but Bitcoin. This will likely happen if we do the above two things. Okay, pointless wars like Russia and Ukraine. Yes, those are over. And force NATO to pay their fair share. Yes, that will happen, if not exiting NATO. And U.S. involvement in or support of the UN. That's a biggie. That's a biggie right there. Involvement in or support of the UN. One reason why this is a biggie is, I agree with it, the UN is kind of a dead body. They're trying to revamp it. That's like their big goal right now, is to totally revamp the charter of the UN. And they're not really doing a very good job. But the UN is headquartered in New York City. So how exactly does the U.S. get out of the UN or stop involvement in the UN and support of the UN if the UN is actually located in the United States? That's a tricky one. Force the UN to disband. Okay. Disband or withdraw from any transnational institution that doesn't serve our interest. Okay, maybe. End EU harassment of U.S. tech sector. That probably won't happen, because the EU is going to be going through some populist growing pains here in the next few years, and they're going to be lashing out at everything and everyone. If they try to regulate, fine, and sue our companies, respond with equal force, pull all military subsidies. Okay. Accelerate AI development, massive expansion of energy base. Let America be the clear AI winner. I mean, this is going to happen anyway, but accelerate AI development. We're getting to a point, right, where a marginal gain in AI is exponentially more expensive, not just in energy, but also in chips and facilities and all of that stuff. So yeah, that's possible that we will be the clear AI winner. Most likely we will be, but what does that involve? I don't think it involves very much. Completely eliminate DEI wokeism. Okay, I agree with that. I hope that happens. Okay, now let's go to my list. My list is so simple in comparison. So my hopes for Trump 2024 is peace. Straight up, that's the first one. World peace, stop the wars. At least don't the U.S. The U.S. should not be involved in any wars, either funding or providing arms to them or anything like that. Just get the U.S. completely out and so have peace for the United States. However, that makes the rest of the world more violent, unfortunately. And that's probably, so it's going to be peace for America, but not so much peace for everyone else. Secure border, just like you said, stop trans indoctrination, Bitcoin strategic reserve. I mean, Nick didn't even mention this. Bitcoin strategic reserve, drill baby drill. He didn't even mention that. Pro U.S. manufacturing policy. He kind of mentioned that, but not directly. He was more about talking about European tech, crackdowns on American companies. Trust bust the mainstream media. This is a dream. I hope that happens. Ban big pharma ads on mainstream media. So one of the biggest funders of this fake news is the pharma companies, the big pharma. They run all those ads that have, at the end of the commercial, they do all the side effects, and can cause blindness, can cause fingers to fall off, can give you chronic disease. And we just need to get rid of those ads on mainstream media. Maybe allow them certain places, but not on mainstream news. Okay. And it's similar to the way that they banned cigarette ads on TV. They can ban big pharma ads on TV too. They don't need it. And that alone will go a long way, not only to fixing media, but fixing the healthcare system as well. Remove liability protection from big pharma. So that is my list. Okay, before I check out comments, I want to go over here to Peter Brandt, and he's talking about the biggest losers from this election. So he says the biggest losers are mainstream media. I hope so. I hope that back in 2016, when Trump got elected the first time, it didn't really happen. European model of society. Not really sure what he means there. What do you guys think? What's he mean here by European model of society? Like Davos influence? A Davos influence? A degrowth influence? Is that what he means here? I'm not sure. Illegal invasion of the U.S. Yes, that will end. Rainbow flags on aircraft carriers. Washington elite. Yeah, those are big losers. Hollyweird elite. I don't know about Hollywood, guys. I don't know if Hollywood can be fixed. Most likely, it will continue a slow decline and it will be replaced by independent creators. I really like some of the stuff put out by the streaming platforms, like their original series and their original movies and stuff. Hope that continues. But nowadays with technology, you can be independent. And so I think that will grow a lot. Okay, Zelensky's Swiss bank account is a loser. Trans prisoners, Obama, Clinton, cabal. And I would put Epstein on that list, the Obama, Clinton, Epstein cabal, woke, DEI, what else? And then he has some more down here. Tampons in the boys' bathroom, men playing girls' sports, and pronouns. Those are the big losers here from this election. Okay, now let me check the comments. I'm going to go back to the website here and just put that in the background while I'm talking about comments. So the rise, okay, no new comments over there on YouTube or Rumble. If you guys are watching on Twitter, jump over to YouTube or Rumble, make comments if you would like to. Let me check Telegram. See, I'm live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Telegram. Oh, Free Ross. Larry Jr., thank you for saying that. Let me go back to my list. So my list also included I was told by Spartacus here, don't forget Free Ross. I said, absolutely, but I'm taking that one for granted right now. I think it's going to happen on day one. So January 20th of 2025. And I've seen like David Bailey saying, hey, some rich Bitcoiner needs to fly these guys, fly them home. I think that would be pretty amazing. So yes, of course, Free Ross, Free Ross, Free Ross. Okay, no more comments there. Let's see, what else did I have to talk about? Winners and losers. That's it, guys. So I am done for the day. Big day for Bitcoin. Let's take a look at the live chart before we get out of here, if I can find it in all my tabs. So we are going to get rid of this stuff. Go back to the Bitcoin chart. 75,825 right now. $6,500 on the day. I mean, we can bring up all sorts of things. It's above all moving averages, of course. It's at all-time highs. One of the things about being at all-time high is there's no structure to go off of. So, for example, if we're looking at this, like where's a bottom going to be or a top? What's a target? We can look at, okay, here was a top, and we can go over, okay, so that's kind of an important level. We can look at this one, this top, and it went there. See, that's a better one. So how it found support there. We can also go here and how this was supported here. So as we go up, we're also hitting this type of the bottom. So one of the reasons why this stopped pretty much where it was is because it had this structure from back here in 2021. And as you guys know, I'm all about shelling points. And so this resistance back here was a shelling point for bids and asks and whatever action. So that is where that price stalled out and stopped. But there is no structure above the all-time high, obviously. So what do we do to go and look at where this could go? Well, we have to look at Fibonacci's and round numbers, just psychological round numbers. So 100,000 is going to be massive psychological level. Absolutely massive. But we can also draw out some Fibonacci's. So we can go from this all-time high down to here. And you can see the extension, the 1618 extension is also right around 100,000. So that's going to draw more attention to that. We can, of course, on this, we can add in, let's see, what should we add in? This one, 2618 and 3618, if it's on here. I'm not seeing it, but I can add it here. 3618. Okay, and then if we zoom out, we see these are up here. Oh man, let me make them white. Hold on, guys. Okay, and this one white. All right. So these are like kind of these next levels. The extension comes from the what is it? Phi 61.8, the golden ratio, and then you get an extension of 618, and then a double extension to 618 and 3618. If you go back in Bitcoin's history, you can measure a lot of these things, and you find these golden ratios on all markets too. You find a golden ratio, but these will be important levels as we go up here, and round numbers. So there's nothing to stop the price. Another thing you can look at, of course, is being oversold or overbought. On the weekly, I would be looking at 80 or above. Daily, maybe even 90 would be some sort of top that you can look for. But then you want to look for that above 80 and then getting close to some other level, like a round number or an extension, something of that nature. So that's how we can kind of look at what's the price going forward. Okay, let me check and see if there's any other comments, and then I'm just going to bounce out for the day, guys. Dex Invictus made it. All right, so that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys for joining me. Ansel Lindner, Bitcoin and Markets. Check out bitcoinandmarkets.com. Like, comment, subscribe to this stream, and I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.